When fear is triggered, it's assumed that you are in a life or death situation, and thus deserve to use up every bit of energy you are humanly able to use, mental energy, physical and emotional, until you are guaranteed security and safety. Remember that fear cannot think, it reacts. You have to do the thinking for it. You have to be aware that it's triggered. Otherwise, if not, and fear runs in the background undetected, it can use up all your energy reserves, mentally, physically and emotionally, when the situation doesn't require it. People call this depression. Therefore, knowing when your fear is triggered is important. Either it fits the situation or not. If not, then deactivate it. When you are fearful might not be obvious all the time, so let's clarify. If you are being defensive, it's fear. If you are avoiding or procrastinating, it's fear. If you are paralyzed, unable to respond to day the way you want to, this too is a form of fear. Fear isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's subtle, but when detected, you must shine your attention on it and become aware that just like a computer program, it can run in the background without you knowing, especially viruses. It can be activated remotely. It can be activated by triggers implanted in your past. And sometimes it's activated for the right reasons, to let you know something is not right here. Therefore, your job is to find out why your fear is activated, and if it really does need to be running and using up all your available CPU or energy. Fear that is not rooted in reality, but rather in your mind, in your thought patterns, is unfortunately installed in us in childhood.
Take everything but the delicious deals, guys. My mom loves them.
Hey, Eddie, these are birth control pills?
Yeah, and I'm saving it for her sister. This is private stuff.
Eddie Bear, where are you boys off to in such a rush?
Just my backyard, Mrs. K.
Aren't you forgetting something? Okay. Oh, and sweetie, don't go rolling around on the grass, especially if it's just been cut. You know how bad your allergies can get.
I don't know, I guess.
That's poison ivy, and that's poison ivy, and that's poison ivy.
Where? Where's the poison ivy? Nowhere. Not every fucking plant is poison ivy, Stanley.
Aren't you guys coming in?
It's gray water.
What the hell's gray water?
It's basically piss and shit, so I'm just telling you. You guys are splashed around in millions of gallons of dairy pee. Have you ever heard of a staph infection?
Also, staph infection.
So unsanitary. This is literally like swimming inside of a toilet bowl right now. I mean, have you ever heard of a listeria? No!
If you lived here, you'd be home by now.
You did this. You know how delicate he is.
We were attacking Mrs. K.
Don't try and blame anyone else.
Mrs. K,
No! You are all monsters! All of you. And Eddie is done with you. Do you hear? Done!
Let me
Get
help.
back!
Oh, I've heard of you, Miss Marsh. And I don't want a dirty girl like you touching my son.
Here for the refills, Eddie?
Yeah.
You know it's all bullshit, right?
What is?
Your medication. They're placebos.
What does placebo mean?
Placebo means bullshit.
Hello? Okay. I'll meet you there.
And just where do you think you're off to?
Out with my friends.
Sweetie, you can't go. You're getting over your sickness, remember?
My sickness? Okay, what's sickness, Ma? You know what these are? They're gazebos! They're bullshit!
They help you, Eddie. I had to protect you.
Protect me? By lying to me? By keeping me locked inside this hellhole? I'm sorry, but the only people that were actually trying to protect me were my friends. And you made me turn my back on them when I really needed them. So I'm going.
Eddie! Eddie! Oh, you get back here!
Sorry about that, Eddie! Go save my friends!
Eddie! Don't do this to me, Eddie!
These types of fears do sometimes serve us. For instance, to not be outcasted from the tribe. We might have learned that you must not do this or that, so we fear doing this or that, even though this only applies to this one tribe. These fears rooted in the mind appear as thoughts in your mind, and since you believe them to be reality, fear assumes that it's time to be activated in order for you to defend yourself in this perceived danger. For example, in the memory part of your mind, you remember danger, and since fear is reactive, it will be triggered. In the imagination part of your mind, you think of what can be dangerous, the danger that can happen in the future. Again, fear is triggered. Fear can also be triggered as a child from any kind of trauma and serves to shield them from pain. Unfortunately, what can occur is that in order to cope in such an environment, fear unchecked can take over and run over time. This means that the child grows up doing everything with fear as the root driver of their actions and choices. They become defensive, avoiding, and detached. The last time they themselves did anything real without the lens or direction of fear was before the traumatizing, dangerous situation or feelings they experienced as a child. This means that emotionally, they stopped maturing from that day.
Henry, shut up! I'm gonna carve my whole name onto this cottage cheese! I'm gonna cut your fucking tits off, I swear to God! Can't run! My knife! My old man will kill me! You two get him!
Hey! Look at them now, boys. Ain't nothing like a little fear to make a paper man crumble.
too, Henry. Make it a wonderful day. Kill him. 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 Kill him.
Oh, no! Give him a big round of applause!
Well done, Henry.
Kill them all! Kill them all! Kill them all! Kill them all! Kill them all!
In addition, since fear is so energy taxing on all your systems, you can imagine how energy drained such an individual becomes, and thus, the need for external energy is born.
Tasty, beautiful fear.
This energy comes from stimulants, other people's attention, control, etc. This then becomes the primary goal of fear, to fuel itself, in order to protect you, and it will do so by any means necessary. Thus, are you a human or a thief? You might not be aware of this, but just like in the wolf pack, your fear mastery is tested. A new wolf is tested to see if he will defend himself when challenged by the group. If the wolf does, they respect him, because they know that if he defends himself, he will also defend them when faced with fear. Men and women do the same fear testing, whether they are aware of it or not. Again, they do so to see if you will stand up for yourself when faced with fear, because if you do, they can then be allowed to trust you, knowing that you will stand up for them as well, if need be. Another place where you find fear in society is in population control. Let's first take a look at what and how it's used there. Terror is another name for being in fear, filled with it. Terrorism is using fear to control a people, idea, etc. It's used to intimidate another, to get your way.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time.
That is smoking.
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on something that's in every household, something that people are a little bit afraid of already. House cat flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern. So petter beware, that warm body on your lap just might be ready to destroy your tender fiddles. Springfielders are advised to stay tuned for more information if they experience any of the following symptoms: mild thirst, occasional hunger, tiredness at night.
The West has declared a war on terror or terrorism, meaning that any time someone is trying to use fear to get their way, the West, quote unquote, is allowed to engage in their own war with such a person. But what if they themselves are using fear on others to get their way? Who decides who gets to use fear? Who gets to use fear on the ones using fear, to stop the first group that used fear on their people in the first place? Thus, a war on the use of certain emotions to trigger a wanted end result is not specific enough to be won or lost. A war on terror means that there will be a war as long as there are humans alive who feel fear. Now, a war on willful aggression and theft is more tangible and logical as an approach than war on terrorism.